Wow, Yeshua. The Life of the Messiah from a Messianic Jewish Perspective, Volume 1 by Dr. Arnold G. Fruchtenbaum. Hi, this is Matthew Ervin. I'm a pastor, professor, and founding director of appleeye.org. It's a Bible teaching ministry. Today I'm going to give you a quick review of this powerful work. Up front, I'll let you know that Dr. Fruchtenbaum is someone that I look up to. He is a former professor of mine. I've learned a great deal from his books. And I consider him arguably, I do consider him the top Messianic scholar of our day. So I'm biased in this book. That being said, I always try to be honest. I try to give people a fair review, and I'm clear in my opinion, so I have no problem criticizing even those people I look up to. Fairly, of course. So what this commentary is, it's the first of three, and these three commentaries are going to, when they're finished, cover all of the Gospels as sort of one meta-narrative, one overall Gospel, all the accounts in each of the four Gospels in order, and then Arnold Fruchtenbaum does a commentary from that point of view over the entirety of the Gospels. And having now finished this book, I have to say, this may be the greatest commentary over the equivalent material that I'm aware of in church history. I kid you not. This is a powerful book. I would recommend it for people who are in the ministry as professionals. I recommend it for lay people who are interested in more complex material. I recommend it for anyone who wants to understand our Savior Jesus Christ better, Yeshua HaMashiach better. Excellent commentaries on him are critical in understanding the deeper nuances of the Gospels. In fact, that's what this book tries to do. What we have here is to understand the Gospels from the historical perspective, the historical context that the original audience would have understood these teachings. And while you can certainly understand the Gospels without that to the point where you're saved, you can get many key teachings, there's a lot that you're just not going to get. There's a lot of nuance that you're not going to quite see. That when you understand the Jewish perspective, you understand how the Jewish person would think, especially the first century Jew, it really starts to help you appreciate the deeper levels, the deeper meaning in the Gospels. And quite frankly, it can help you understand things that were probably quite simple to the people of the day, but because we're so far removed from that historical context, it can be complicated for us. Now, I'm just going to give you one example from the book. And this is one of my favorite parts, where Dr. Fruchtenbaum talks about the Memra. And the Memra is the Logos. It's what we call the Logos in Greek. Word, reasoning, rationale, thought, expression. And as Dr. Fruchtenbaum discusses, Memra was actually an Aramaic term. It was an Aramaic word that meant the equivalent of what Logos does, and it was a Jewish concept. It wasn't just a Greek concept. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and read this to you now. This is from page 216. Memra is an Aramaic term that means word, and it is a translation of the Hebrew term davar. When Yochanan the Apostle wrote his gospel in Greek, he needed a word to express this concept of the Memra, and the only Greek term he could use was Logos. However, when he was writing about the Logos, he was thinking in terms of the Jewish theology of that day, not in terms of Greek philosophy. People with knowledge of rabbinic writings recognize the connection clearly. And this is important because a lot of people see Logos and they say, oh, so this must have some kind of connection to Platonic philosophy, concepts of form theory and how the Logos works in that hierarchy. And it probably had an appeal to Greek people at the time to hear that. But ultimately, this was a Jewish concept. And in fact, if you read what are known as the Targums, they're Aramaic paraphrases from the Second Temple period. These would often use this term Memra within these paraphrases. And it was a way for the rabbis to quickly teach complex material from the Torah and the prophets and the other writings. and they would just paraphrase it. But in these paraphrases, we would start to see the word Memra added in, where we wouldn't necessarily see it in the original text, meaning that there was a Hebraic concept of the Memra in the culture already. For example, in Genesis, when we see in our Bibles that Adam and Eve heard the Lord as he was walking through the garden, the Targum reading would says something along the lines of, and Adam and Eve heard the word of the Lord walking through the garden. So the implication is that the word itself was in the garden. And you can see this in many, many stories. And so what happens is when we get to the Gospel of John, we see that the word, the Memra, has taken on flesh. And it is, of course, who we know as Jesus Christ, Yeshua, the Messiah. So that's just one thing, and Arnold goes through a lot more detail than I just did. He gives a lot of examples of targums. He gives you a lot more background, and this is just one aspect. There's so much rich material in this book. Do I have any complaints? Do I have any complaints about this book? Yes, just one, and it's quite minor. The author uses a lot of references, a lot of other authors, and provides their information. Now, I realize this is what an academic does in his writings. I do it myself frequently. However, it's almost too much in this work. It can be distracting at times. In fact, Dr. Fruchtenbaum often refers to authors on subjects as a source of authority, and I happen to know that he knows a lot more about the given subject than the person he's looking to as a reference. Now, it's a good idea to do because you want to show that I'm not the only one that thinks this, other respected scholars think this, but some of these guys, let's just say I think Dr. Fruchtenbaum is a far better biblical scholar than some of the sources he's citing. Not many. I think many of the sources are good, but like I said, I just think there's too much. Quite often I'll see him start to get a discussion and provide someone else's words, and I would rather just read more of what he thinks. But you know what? That's hardly much of a criticism. I would rather read more of what the author thinks and wants to say. Like I said, not much of a criticism there. So I believe this is still only available through his website, his ministry website, ariel.org, ARIEL.org, ariel.org. In fact, when I ordered mine, I went ahead and emailed them immediately. I said, if you wouldn't mind, could I get my copy signed? And sure enough, they are. See if you can see that. Both of my copies came signed. Now, I can't guarantee yours will, but it's worth a shot. It worked for me. So, look, I think this is worth checking out. And it's going to get you closer to Jesus. It's going to help you understand the Word better. And that's something that's certainly admirable.